Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Haston. I work with LDG Multifamily. I'm here with Chase Kane. Chase, get everyone a wave, as well as some members from Hano. We have Emily May, who is helping the project lead on this development with Hano, as well as Leslie Thomas, who heads up communication and marketing. John Jordan, who is Director of Development. And then that may be all from Hano. Then we have Ryan Flanagan of SEF Engineers in New Orleans, Michael Kochke of Volume Zero in New Orleans, and then Vadim Kaplan of Studio A Architecture based out of Louisville, Kentucky. So we got a fair amount of people on here from different groups, all able to answer any sort of questions you may have. I will say this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, we will post it to Hano's website along with this presentation. So don't feel like you have to screenshot every image or do everything. It'll be posted on the website, on Hano's website, where you can view it as many times as you want to and share it with your friends and family that maybe didn't get to make it tonight. With that, I'm gonna share my screen and go through a little presentation. Can everyone see that the screen? Okay, I'm seeing nods. That's a good sign. So thanks so much for hopping on, especially on a weeknight. We know your time is valuable, but we know that you're also extremely interested in all things happening in New Orleans and your community, and want to make sure that you're involved, and we really appreciate that. That's how you build up and improve your city, so we really appreciate it. Tonight we want to talk about a proposed development that is it's properly zoned as of now, so we're not asking for rezoning. We're just asking for community engagement on what we would like to build. Again, we're with LDG Multifamily. We applied to redevelop a property along Florida Avenue that is owned by Hano. And this is actually our second community meeting. We came to you guys probably about this time last year with our first community meeting and got a lot of your feedback, and then bam, COVID happened. And so slowed everything down, but now we're back with some of the feedback that you brought to us, and that we've tried to reincorporate and bring as much of it as you wanted. So with that, we'll dive into the presentation. I'll say that all the pictures that you're going to see in this slideshow are pictures of developments that we have built. So they're not pulled from some random internet clipping. They are things that LDG has built and are kind of a testament to the level of quality that we build to. So keep that in mind as you're viewing this presentation. I'll also say we're taking questions at the end, and we'll view a site plan and some renderings as well. So just a little bit about us, LDG. That is what we'd like to talk about LDG, about the proposal, and discuss kind of your preferences at the end, questions and about the design, what we're thinking about, and what you may want to see for our next time, and that we can take into account. Here at LDG, we've been around for, plus over 25 years. And the only reason we're around that long is because we believe and we enact and we stick to our mantra that everyone deserves a quality place to call home. We build a very high quality product because we know that everyone deserves to live in a high quality place. They don't deserve to have a bad air conditioner. They need a balcony. They need all these things to have a beautiful community, and we believe everyone has that or deserves to have that. Also, we believe that everyone needs to have a development that is kind of in line with or really close to what they want for their community vision. We believe that development shouldn't happen to you, but with you. And we also believe in long-term partnerships. So with this development, We hope to create a long-lasting partnership with the upper Ninth Ward communities within Florida and Desire and broader, because it'll have a broader impact, I believe. So we are long-term partners in improving this area of New Orleans and making it the beautiful place that it should be. Again, a little bit about LDG is we're really experienced in doing what we do. We have built over 17,000 apartment units since our establishment. Here in New Orleans, we have built the Muses. It's a block off of St. Charles behind the Houstons, if you know where that is. We did that after Hurricane Katrina. And we've also built around 1,500 apartments across southern Louisiana, many of them in Baton Rouge, but all the way across to Lake Charles as well. And then also we're concurrently working on our project in Councilmember Palmer's district in the Algiers community. So we're really familiar with Louisiana, we're really familiar with New Orleans, and we want to make sure that we can continue making New Orleans a phenomenal place. The site that we're talking about tonight is this giant pink area that is bounded by Florida Avenue on the north. So if you can see my cursor, Gallier Street on the west, Mazant Street on the east, and then it has Law Avenue on the southern border on part of it, as well as North Dorganois on the other southern border. It's if you live in the existing Florida community, it kind of wraps around you as well. And the Desire community is due north of the project. As Miss Marguerite Johnston was telling me, they're really the same community, and we want to make sure that we can bring both communities together with this development. We'll talk more about this site plan in future slides, but just wanted to give you a little teaser. What we see as this development is we're really going to help to make sure that we're improving the infrastructure. We want to make sure that we're improving stormwater resiliency within this area and adding back tree canopy. New Orleans has lovely, lovely trees. I love your live oaks. And we want to also make sure that we're building back a safe community. So there will be street and pedestrian lighting throughout so that everyone can feel comfortable walking any time of day. We also want to make sure that we're building back street connectivity. We know that's very important. Right now, there's some closed off streets along Law Avenue or Law Street, and we want to make sure we're opening those back up to the community, as well as extending Law Street over to Mazant Street. So there's, we want to make sure that we're building back a connected street for everyone to be able to walk around. We also want to make sure we're adding back a variety of housing choices. Not everyone wants to live in a shotgun home. Maybe you want a smaller apartment to maintain. So we want to make sure that we're providing some variety in how we redevelop the site. The site is also already zoned to allow for some retail. It would not be our preference to do that, but we can look at doing that. But we believe that beyond developing this, it'll help further catalyze economic development in the community, as well as bring construction and permanent jobs to the neighborhood. It takes a leasing staff to make sure that these are all run, and we know that this will create at least 200 construction jobs during the construction process. So there is economic development that happens because of that. The concept design that we're looking at, it has a mix of apartments and townhomes. It will have a clubhouse contained in one of the buildings. Within the clubhouse, you can expect to see a business center, which means like computer rooms. So if you don't have a laptop of your own, maybe you can use the business center with a printer. It'll have a fitness center, so a little gym with a treadmill, weights if you want to use those. we want to make sure that our residents are able to maintain their health. Also, a community room. We know that that's also a big driver. New Orleans loves get-togethers. You guys know how to party, and we want to make sure that we can have a community room for people to gather for our tenants, but it can also be arranged with our management staff for the community to use it as well. And again, the potential to add commercial space, and we'll talk about this in a second. There'll be plenty of green space around and throughout. We would like to include a playground and a dog park, but we can talk about that. And we would also want to make sure we're adding back tree canopy and make sure we're accessible to public transit. There's a couple bus stops a couple blocks away, so we want to make sure that people can easily access those and make it if they don't have a car. Here's a couple more pictures of other developments that we've built, just to give you an idea of what it could look like. Another thing that we like to make sure that we do is we want to be environmentally sustainable with our developments. So we want to build this project to meet enterprise green community standards. That's a mouthful, but what that basically means is we want to make sure that all your appliances are Energy Star rated, and we want to make sure that your utility bills are low. So we're building a sustainable product that helps save money on your energy bills, your utility bills, because it gets hot in New Orleans. You guys need AC, as you guys all know. And so, but beyond that, it's building in resiliency into the site, making sure that you're preparing the site for stormwater, for native landscaping, things of that nature. And then also one thing that was mentioned during our last community meeting is bike storage. That's a component of the enterprise green. So know that there will be plenty of bike storage throughout the development. Speaking of that, some of the comments that we received after our last community meeting were that you wanted to make sure that you had, bike racks throughout, as well as an abundance of storage. So we took that to heart, and here's an example of a bike rack that we would like to include. We want to make sure that there's enough bike racks to provide covered storage for your bike, to make sure it's not exposed to the elements. And we'd also like to make sure that we're providing enough indoor storage for some of those things that maybe you don't really fit in your clothes closet. So I'm going to zoom in a second so you guys can see what this could look like. What these plans down here are not the plans for this site. We have not started on those plans. The plans down here at the bottom of the screen are from another development that we have built. And so they are an example of what it could look like. However, we would like to include some bigger New Orleans style porches. So again, I'm going to zoom in and we can walk through what your future, skipped a slide, of what, excuse me. There we go. All right. So this particular unit, and I apologize for all the lines around it, that's from specific architecture plans, but if you can envision it, this would be a 1-bedroom unit or 1-bedroom apartment that's about 800 square feet, where you would walk into your unit. You'd have a big open floor plan, or you could have a big open floor plan where there's an open kitchen, very modern. As well, you could have a bedroom, your bathroom with closet as well. And then inside, on your way to your laundry room, you could have your own storage. So that's pretty sizable storage. That's probably, again, an estimate. It's probably about 25 square feet, which is big enough to store most of your items that you maybe wouldn't want to store otherwise. Similarly, in the 2-bedroom unit, again, this is an example. You could have your open floor walk in your door, more storage off the kitchen space for your pantry and other cleaning items, washer dryer, big open kitchen and living room. Gotta have room for your big screen TV. As well as walking in, you can see the storage actually off of another closet, as well as big walk-in closet in the other master bedroom. So we want to make sure that there's plenty of storage throughout the property, throughout the units. That's a big selling point. And so we want to make sure that everyone feel like they have enough storage in these beautiful units. And then lastly, here's an example of a 3-bedroom unit. It's what it could be, again, but with bigger New Orleans style porches. Where you walk in your unit, big kitchen, but in this particular floor plan, the excess storage is actually off of the kitchen. Okay. So that's just an example. More storage, walk-in closet in 1 bedroom, big closet in another bedroom, walk-in closet in another bedroom. So we've got plenty of storage in these units, and we want to make sure that we emphasize that we do have plenty of storage for anything that you want to hide away. So our general timeline, and this is very squishy because it takes a long time to arrange for permits and financing, but we would like to have another community meeting but wrap up our community meetings this spring, and then kind of start the permitting process this summer. And then hopefully we can finish the permits and wrap up all of our, get all our financing together in time for a winter or spring groundbreaking, but then have a grand opening in 2024. So this is a long time to make sure that to build this out, and we want to make sure that we're not over promising and on the timeline, because this could take a while. This could slide longer. So we want to be very transparent about that. In a second, I'm going to go through to the site plan. We'll talk more about the site plan in a second, as well as show a couple renderings of what it could look like. What a rendering is not exact. It's what we could potentially envision. And so we'll take comments on both the site plan and the renderings. And the way that we'll do that is that after I talk about the site plan and show you the renderings, we're going to use the chat function. And so you'll say in the chat function, which is, you can locate that at the bottom of your screen. You'll say, I've got a question. And then my colleague Chase Kane will unmute you, and we will answer the questions individually. Once we answer all the questions in the chat, we will take questions from people that are listening in. And again, if you're just listening in, this presentation will be posted to Hano's website after the meeting. Ms. Johnston asked me a couple questions before the meeting, and I wanted to save it towards the end here. A few of the comments that we got back from the last community meeting is that you wanted to make sure that you weren't engulfed with housing. So the existing Florida community, if you can see my cursor, is right here, kind of where the legend is. And so all these orangish red buildings are 2-story townhomes. Those townhomes would be essentially the same height as the existing community. And that's so you don't have to look out your front door and see a big building. That's very intentional. Another comment that we received, and mainly the reason why it took so long for us to come back to you, is that you guys really wanted some senior specific units. And so that took a lot of back and forth, but I think we can do that. That is this purple building right here. So this purple building has 3 stories, or it could be 3 stories. And they would be reserved specifically for seniors. And then in the back, there would be 3-story apartment buildings that seniors could rent if they chose to, but will primarily cater towards families. Also, one thing that we would really love to do, it will take your approval as well as city approval. We would really, really love to build a green space, a big central green space that also includes a big greenway cutting through. If you're not familiar, this is actually a street called Alvar that cuts through the site. We would love to be able to turn this into, instead of having it open to cars, we would love to turn that into a greenway. That's going to take some back and forth with the city, and we would really love your feedback and share your feedback if you're in support of that. So that's what we would love to do. As you can see, there's plenty of other green space. We would be, again, opening up the streets so you can once again drive through to get to Florida Avenue on the north side, as well as extending Law Avenue and Bartholomew. So that is a general concept plan. I'm going to show you some potential renderings of what it could look like. Again, these are not exact. A few things I want to stress is that right now, this rendering is showing a corner balcony. You can see that. That corner balcony is currently not possible unless we can get the greenway approved. So I want to make sure I voice that, and I'm very transparent. So we know that a lot of the buildings have corner balconies in New Orleans, and we want to make sure that they can have corner balconies here too. So again, if you support the greenway and the closing of Alvar Street, please let us know, and we'll pass that along to Councilmember Brossette's office. Again, this is kind of what they could look like. This is a mixture of party board. So it's nothing out of the ordinary or it's kind of what a lot of the architecture looks like in New Orleans already. I'll try to zoom in a little bit to see if you guys can see it a little bit better. To give you an idea, if you were a pedestrian, that building right there is essentially that building right there on the site plan, or what it could be. So you could, if you were in your corner balcony, you could look out and see all the green space. That's kind of what we envision and what we would like to do for the community. Let me scooch on to the senior building. Again, this is an example of what it could look like. This is not exact. And again, we want to take your feedback on what you want to see or what you would like to see between now on this senior building. With this one, Mr. Kaplan, if I'm mistaken, please correct me. But with this one, the corner balconies could be possible. That is right here, corner balcony. That would be this corner right here.
That is correct.
Law and Alvar. And we would like to have someone be able to have a big view shed of the green space. So all the seniors that live in this will be able to look out their balcony and see green space. That's kind of what we're envisioning. And with that, that actually concludes my presentation. I would actually like to take questions from the chat. So Chase, can you help me monitor questions in the chat, please?
Yes. I don't see any right now.
Okay, I actually do see one from Miss Johnston. Miss Johnston is asking,
Okay.
what is the density side? I think she means what is the density?
Yeah.
So the overall site density is still to be determined, but it would be about 300, 330 or so.
No.
A mix of townhomes as well as apartments. I'm seeing another one from Miss Joseph. Miss Joseph is asking, where are the apartments located at Deborah? Oh, where are the apartments located? So the apartments would be on the north side, between what is now Alvar Street and then Florida, as well as this senior apartments that would be along Alvar between Law and Florida. Okay.
All right. I think Mr. Thomas has a question.
Oh, you mean, I think, so I'm hearing from Leslie Thomas from Hano that Councilmember Brissett is on the line. Councilmember Brissett, I'd like to offer you an opportunity to speak if you would like to speak on the matter.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. And I just caught as you were going through the schematics and design and layout. So you could go through and just clarify what I believe the constituents' concerns are. Break down the zoning classification in accordance what's allowed and what is proposed. As far as Ms. Johnson's, I know, question on density. And look, I have familiarity with how Columbia Park was built, the old St. Bernard housing development. Just in the simplest terms, give us what is the determining factor on how many individuals or units are you all looking to develop and accordance with the zoning of the zoning classification of the current land of the land.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, council member, and thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. The current zoning for this site is historic mixed use 1. And what that means is it allows for a mix of, it allows for apartments, it allows for townhomes, it allows for commercial space, and it also allows you to build up to 4 stories tall. And so we thought that density was too dense. We thought that 4 stories did not fit in with the character within a community, which is why we chose to intentionally tone it down. Now, what I would say is that the current density as proposed is specific for economies of scale, in the sense that you can't build, you have to have a certain amount of units to make sure that the numbers work. Otherwise, it just stays a vacant site. And that's, again, not what we want to do. I don't think that's what you want to do either. So that is kind of where we landed at where we are at the moment. But again, we wanted to make sure that we weren't overbuilding. And again, we're making sure that there's plenty of green space within the community.
But Josh, here's my problem. Pre-Katrina, we had people living on top of people. That brought in crime. Our police was working overtime, and we tried to keep it down. After Hurricane Katrina, Hano, the reason why they knocked down the housing development to make the density less. Right. Hano agreed with the community, and they promised us that they were going to bring in, before y'all came in, 253 units, and that was mixed housing. Okay, my problem is this 3-story. That don't go with our community. We're a 2-story community, and to put all those people back into, I understand it's going to be it's going to be on your income, but to put all them people into this small area and things, this going to cause us to go backwards. We're going backwards. We're going back to Hurricane Katrina times, which we don't want. And I'm in full agreement with, the 2-story, but the 3-story, and to put 300 residents in that little space, I'm sorry, it's not conducive to this area. Now, maybe you might want to split it up and put some on the Desire side. You'll get
no, don't be putting nothing on my side.
But
no.
I'm just saying, that's not conducive to our community. You're not taking into consideration the homes. People own their homes that has been here all our lives. The development came after us, not before us. And I think y'all should take into consideration of the people that lives in this community, and we all gonna live together with your community. And by the way, you said, Alvar and Law Street. Also, we have one other thing we have is the problem with the address, where that address came from, because that is the 3500 block of Florida Avenue. If you're coming from Florida Avenue, and if you're on Gallia Street side, that's the 2600 block. But my concern is the density. 300 people on top of each other, y'all sending us backwards instead of making us go forward.
Yeah, let me chime in now if I can. And good evening, Councilman. I'm glad you're on the line. Hano promised that wouldn't happen again. We had the largest complex on my side, which is on the other side of Florida Avenue, which was the Desire where I grew up at. I've been in this community a long time. I'm 72 years of age at this point. So I grew up here, and I know every crick, cradle, every little hole they have in this community. I am a housing development corporation. I've been in existence 53 plus years. We have built 3 subdivisions, single family subdivisions, and an elderly handicap apartment complex for the Department of HUD. We also built the scatter site, which Hano has toned down. It was a turnkey 3 project. It was homeowners and rentals. This community has enough rental property already. We need to put people in housing. Apartments is fine. The development is there, but we don't want to do it again like they had before. And they promised they wouldn't do that. They would put up X amount of units, housing authority, and then they would try to take the other part and make home ownership for folks on the other side. of the tracks. It's all one community, but there's less housing for homeowners on the opposite side. My side, there's a great deal of them. There's a great deal of apartments, abundant squares there. They cut it down. We had 1,800 units there when I grew up there. I grew up at 3127 Desire Parkway. And just a clarification, it's Maison Street, not Mazar. It's Maison, okay? That's the pronunciation. And Alva, we don't mind you coming and doing something good for the area, but you need to look at what is best for our area. Some apartments are good, the 2 stories, I can see that. The elderly complex, it's good, as long as it's sort of gated somewhat, because it's on the isolated side over there, and we don't want people messing with our seniors like me, but I'm a homeowner. So, but anyway, and I think the councilman agreed with the stuff that's going on at this moment. Hopefully that's going to change pretty soon. But we need to look at that. The 3 stories is, to me, would be totally out on, if I had to talk about it, I would not agree to it. I just would not. We've been there. Florida, the St. Bernard was that, but they cleared from that. You know, these units, we never had 3 stories in Desire, never. We only had the 2 stories, and I grew up, like I said, I grew up in them. But I think the plans, some of the plans with the brown, the little 2 stories are great. I think some of the green is good. Now, you're saying take and block off the streets. When you do that, you have to think about what happens if you block off that street, and not trying to down our city, because I love my city and I've been in law for 37 years, but I'm thinking that level now. You block it off and the law enforcement has to come in there. You don't give them an opportunity to do what they do their job well. That's why we don't block off a lot of streets. And if we do anything, it would be a large gate or something where it was gated, where they just couldn't jump over the fence and get away. All right, so think about that when you're talking about doing that, because that could create a problem, a crime problem for us. So this is my first time looking at it, and Margaret has talked to me about it several times, and I told her I would love to help to be on this next one, which we are now. But we need to go back and plan. And then when you do that, I would prefer, and this just me being in the development, see the plans that you were really proposing, not something that would look something like that, because we've been burnt like that before in this city. They say they're gonna put this in, but then when it happens and everybody says, oh yeah, that's good, that's look like, then when it happens, it's totally different. Now we got a big fight on our hands. But we done say, yeah, because we got something that looked something like that. And as they said, they're correct. They said look like something. It is not that. We would prefer, and I'm quite sure I can speak for quite a few people here, that whatever you propose, let us see that or close to what you're proposing, not something you've done somewhere. Now, these are beautiful, but not for that section of the city. Now, if you go up on the warehouse district, that would be perfect. That would be perfect, but not there. I don't see it. But again, look at it, think about it. I'll give you my number, my address. My phone is on 24 hours. The councilman knows that we definitely agree with, talk to him about most of the things here in this community or in the city too. But that one, if you went to the councilman right now, I would say no. And I would be honest with you. I won't sugarcoat it. But if you go back and look at it and think about the area, talk to some of the community people who knows the area and knows some of the demographics about where we at, I think that'll help y'all a great deal. But the next time I hope that we do talk, because I know there's time limits, like you said, because I'm doing a 50,000 square feet building right across the track on Florida and Piketon. 50,000 commercial building and office space. And we doing that, we're gonna go out to bid hopefully June, all right? So, and you got another community, senior community building that's coming up that we did groundbreaking with the councilman just last Friday. So that's being already starting construction. So,
Sir, you've got a lot of great points. I want to make sure we're giving other people the chance.
go ahead,
to
I'm sorry,
speak.
but go ahead and I'll send my questions in, I'm fine. Go ahead.
Josh, one other thing, that little strip right there where the park is, the walkway you said right here, where they got the little light green not what that is, the bike path that you was talking about?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Can I address some of the questions that have been brought up? I just want to make sure that we're.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that's not Alvar, that's Losset Street.
Sorry. Yes. So let me address some of the questions. So first off, I want to correct a couple things that I misspoke. It is HURM2 zoning, which is similar, but it allows up to 4 stories. So we agree with you. 4 stories is way too dense here. It does not make sense. I apologize for the misspeaking and mispronouncing the names of the streets. That's on
You're
me.
not a native New Orleans, you good, but you did good. You did good.
It's my Tennessean coming out.
Okay.
So I do want to be clear about that. In terms of creating homeownership, trust me, I feel you. I understand that. What we see is this is a pathway to homeownership. In our experience, we allow tenants, because they're saving money on their rent, we're allowing them to save for that down payment so they can buy the single family home in your neighborhood, that they can continue to revitalize the community. So this is a stepping stone that allows us to continue, because for all the homeowners in the room, just remember back when you first qualified for a mortgage, they wanted 2 years of employment. They wanted 2 years of stable renting, stable.
I do home buyers education for the Department of Housing and Urban Development since 1972. So I know about all that. I mean, I know that we do that every day. I mean, every week I have counselors that do this training and financial fitness. So that's nothing new to me. So I know
exactly. Yes, sir. I'm not trying. You're extremely educated. I want to make sure that everyone else.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Is knowing.
I'm sorry.
And in terms of your question, Ms. Johnston, about the bike and pedestrian path, yes, let me go back to maybe I can zoom in a little bit more. Yes, so as you can see on here, it is Lasat. I apologize if I misspoke. Lasat Place. So yes, we would like to turn that into a greenway. What you can't see in this space, and I want to address your question, sir, about the breaking up of the street grid. Lasat does not continue right here at the moment. There is a street or a block that kind of cuts it off, and Lasat continues. So we wouldn't be essentially disconnecting except through this section. So I definitely understand and agree with you that we don't want to break up the street grid too much. We just thought this might be a great value add for the community in terms of providing green space that people can walk through and ride their bike on, and again look out on their balcony onto this green space. We thought it would be a great value add, which is why we proposed it.
I agree.
Are there any other questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to make sure that we're addressing people's questions. Maybe some people that haven't spoken to.
I would just because I have to pop into a Lake Oaks neighborhood meeting, I would just interject and say, go look at some of the other Hano developments relative to the large affordable developments, which we, the council, have approved for example, the Mazant is the most recent, 40, that's, I believe, 4100 Boyle Street.
Yeah.
And, you know, there is a multitude of different scales from 2 floors to 3 floors to 4 floors. But the 2 floors is, it's not one size fits all. You have a scalable property for the 1, 2, 3. I believe, if I'm correct, I believe Mazan went from one bedroom to I think 1 bedroom to 4 bedrooms, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, even Columbia Park is another one.
Right.
And so, you know, I would ask you to, you know, don't attempt to reinvent the wheel. You know, there's examples there, and continue to work with the community. And I'll look forward to circling back with all of you in the near future.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Council.
Councilmember. And you brought up a good point. I just want to say that this is a mix of 1s, 2s, and 3s. And so we want to make sure we're emphasizing that, say that this is providing housing for a lot of different types of people.
This is mixed use, correct?
So it's currently all residential, but there is, again, the zoning does allow for.
I'm talking about is this 100% affordable, or is it mixed use? What, 60% affordable, or what? Market
So
rate,
as of now, it's we're considering all the way from the project-based voucher up to market rate. So you're getting all across the spectrum. It is mixed income.
y'all have an idea of how many units affordable as of yet?
It's probably about 80 to 90% affordable. But that's up to 80% AMI. So you're getting a broad spectrum again.
All right. All right. All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you all, and have a good evening, and stay safe with impeding weather tomorrow. Hope it misses us.
I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat box. I want to make sure, are there any questions on the phone before we end the meeting?
No. Hi, Mr. Josh. This is Diane Connolly, the resident council of Florida.
Okay.
Hey.
I have a couple of questions and comments I want to make.
Okay.
I'm listening to people, you know, talking about what they want and what they would like to see. I stay in the news site of this property. I was at the table every event. And with this site that's coming up now, before Katrina, we had 373 tenants on this site. It was tall buildings up to 3 stories high. And I don't want to see hallways and everything again. But I would like to see some of our people come home. That I fought for to come back in this side right here. But when you're talking about now mixing all these people, and I'm a little bit on what Ms. Marguerite is saying, is gonna probably bring in, but crime is everywhere. But we as residents have to take back our community. So we could stop it, before it gets started. If we just stick together. Like I tell these 50 that's back here today, if we don't want the crime, we got to drop a dime, if you know what I'm talking about. So we got to tell where it's coming at and where it's starting at. Because that's how I am. Because I don't want to be running, diving, and dipping and jumping and doing that no more. And looking at our seniors burying their children and crying, they had some bloodshed on this ground. And I don't want that to happen again. And I understand what she come at with that. But I'm saying that we make a minimize some of all those, people of coming back. But I'm for this senior living because a lot of our seniors wanted to come back home. And now our young people that was back here, they done became seniors. Some of the ones that was kind of, now they are becoming seniors. They're the seniors now. So they may want to go in that building. So I'm for the senior, but I just want to know, would that be a lot of the duplexes? And I'm, with the duplexes, instead of, we don't want all those free storages. I wouldn't want that around, because then that's where you're starting hallways. And
Yeah.
I don't want them hallways, no.
Yeah, great question. So these are all 2-story, a mix of duplexes and triplexes. All these orangish red buildings that are along Law, Alver, and I apologize if I butchered that street name again, and North Organois. So those are all 2-story. In terms of the corridors, the only building that would have a corridor would be the senior building. And then again, that is senior restricted, that has elevator access. The other buildings would be 3-story, and they would have stairways that would be breezeways. So they're very limited amount of corridor, as you say, and it would be, it would be, let's see if you can see it better on. There's an idea, so you could walk up from your street, but then have all the units have their own locks and doorbells and whatnot. And to address another comment that was raised, this is very close to what we think is very possible. It fits in line with the zoning. What I meant by that is we were hoping to get some comments tonight about colors and things of that nature. Like, do you really want this pink pastel and this blue pastel, or do you want some other colors? That's what I meant about the descriptions.
Josh,
So in other
can I
words, you're telling
interject
us
something
we don't
here?
have, so in other words, we don't have an option of saying that we want the density down some, because you're telling us, you never said anything about, we'll look at about the 3-story where not where the seniors are. We don't mind the 3 stories where the seniors are. It's just that in the little yellow spots where you have the other buildings gonna be, that's what we're talking about. That's, 3 stories, we,
Well, I know street for no seniors.
we could take the 3 stories for the seniors. I would love to have the seniors in their own building in 3 stories. Yes, because that means we can get about what? How many seniors can we get in that building, Josh? About what, 60?
That's actually about 86 units.
Huh?
That's about 86 units in the purple building.
Okay, so that'll be perfect for our senior living. That'll be perfect. But it's just the light yellow spaces where you talking about doing 3 stories. That's a problem waiting to happen. We done lived that life before.
I understand your concern. I think that the way that these will be managed, that should not be an issue in terms of crime. These are have a third-party manager. As of now, we're planning to use Ladder and Blum, which is a very reputable third-party manager, to be the property manager. And so when we when we look at tenants, we have to follow HUD guidelines and fair housing guidelines so that we're not being discriminatory. And part of that, it does include a background check. And
Yeah,
so
but
there's,
they limited that. They just had a new ruling on that. Why that the resident council that's over there, why they can't manage their own site? Why we have to bring Ladder and Bloom in? I'm not dissing them, but
that's
I mean,
not
they've
gonna-
had their
that's
problems
not
too
gonna
in the
be-
city.
No,
That's not gonna
no,
be for Hano.
it's not Hano property, it's separate and apart.
So so they giving the property away.
Oh, let me get off here.
no.
Josh, can I ask a question? This is Cynthia. The senior building you say is going to be 3 stories, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I think and I somewhat agree because we did one multi-story building by me. I think the biggest issue is the bedroom sizes that's going to go in those units and the amount of people that's going to be inside of it, especially when we start talking about children and we're stacking them. One of the things we wanted to see was a deconcentration from the perspective of having more townhouses versus having stack housing. And stack housing to me is people living on top of one another, which was what we were coming away from. And that's what Diane is alluding to, that we would prefer more of the kind of units that she currently lives in, which is a double, and they're 2 stories. And I think that, and I understand why you're doing it from a financial perspective. And I don't know that y'all can go back and look at the numbers to make them work such that we can have more townhouses concepts versus having these stacked buildings, because they really don't work. And I don't care who the manager is when they're up. And I mean, I experience here at Gus, we can screen all we want, but that element some kind of way creeps itself in and it poses a problem for everybody that lives inside of that building. So I think that's what they're objecting to. But again, I understand why you're doing it from a financial perspective. That's what I'm assuming. Is there any way possible we can do more of the townhouse concept versus the multi-story buildings?
At this time, I will be direct and transparent. At this time, probably not, just because we know that there's not enough. It requires a lot of subsidy to make that happen. And there's not enough subsidy to kind of make that happen.
I thought you guys were doing more PBVs on this property than you were.
Yes,
and I didn't know y'all were doing market rates at all.
Yeah. So the townhomes and the family style buildings, the yellow buildings, those will be about 25% project-based vouchers, which equates to about 63 project-based vouchers under the current proposal. And then the senior building is 100% project-based voucher at 86 units.
Okay.
So again, that was directly in response to the comments that arose from the last community meetings that I believe it was Ms. Connolly that mentioned she wanted to bring back the neighborhood and the seniors. And so we made a big ask of Hano for senior vouchers as well as, and so that's the only reason why this is possible. But the numbers most likely do not work for an all townhome and senior building.
And y'all
So
don't
I
have
think
tax
that's
credits on
the
this
question,
property?
Josh and Cynthia, and to other folks on the phone. This is Gian Jordan, who's the Director of Development at Hano. I just really need a point of clarification because as Josh mentioned earlier, when we first started having a conversation about this, we were roughly around 250 units.
Right.
And then he heard you when you guys said, you know, can we do senior housing? And so when the senior housing came in, of course, your density increased. So I think what we need to understand is it that you have more of a concern with the numbers versus the scale of the building? Do you want to see less units, or do you want to see no 3-story buildings at all?
Gian, that's not what you're saying is not correct, because when we had the first meeting, when we was introduced to this, Josh said that there were going to be 300 families there, and that was before we included the senior living. Okay, that's not after. What we're saying, we would prefer, like Diane and Cynthia said, putting all of these people on top of each other. We should, first of all, the community just don't, it's not just handled. When y'all came to the table, someone who's a resident should have been there also to say, we live this life. Once y'all leave us and y'all finish with this building, we stuck with this. We're gonna be stuck with this building. And just like Cynthia said, the element creeps in, it does. I don't care how you try to keep it out, it does. And we going backwards. Hano was the one who told us there were gonna be 253 units prior to this company coming in. Now, when we heard about it, we thinking it's 200 and something. But when Josh told us at the very first meeting, 300, that caught us all off base, because Hano already have 53 families. Am I right, Diane? Hano already have 53 families back there. Yeah. We're not complaining about the 3-story where the senior citizen is. We're complaining about on the yellow spaces. We're complaining no 3 stories, because we didn't live that life. We're not trying to go backwards. And if I'm correct, Cynthia, I thought that they were taking down the density sizes of the housing development. That's why they was knocking them down and rebuilding them. Am I right, Cynthia?
Yep. I really thought that. I was kind of shocked when I heard the numbers went past 300 actually. And I really thought it was going to be the 253 in addition to the 50 that was already on the site already, would gave them a total of 300. That's what I thought. And that's why I put that in the comment section. The density increase. I really thought it was just 300 units.
Right, that's what I thought. And that 300 included the 53 that was already there.
Right.
That's what we're saying. It seemed like we got it, but I'm honestly and truly, don't get me wrong, I want redevelopment in this community. Like Wilbur said, I'm 62 years old and I was born and raised in my house right around the corner from the Florida Housing Development. We all knew each other back then. Okay, but now we're dealing with a whole nother element. We don't mind the 300. So which means Josh is 200 and something people that, that we agree plus the 53 that's there. But you trying to stick us with 3 stories and 300 people. That's not fair to the community.
Can I ask you a question? Josh, is there a possibility that, and I'm just throwing that out there, that we could look around in a neighborhood, acquire some doubles and make that a part of the project?
I'm sorry, who's talking? I'm having a hard time
That's
seeing.
Cynthia.
Okay. Can you clarify your question, Cynthia? I didn't really understand.
Surrounding the Florida, there are a lot of blighted properties. Is there any way possible you guys can acquire some of that property and convert those, take those units and make them the townhouses that you're proposing for the site to eliminate the 3-story buildings? And I don't know how many units that would be.
I don't know. I offhand, that would be very difficult. Scattered site developments.
And we were promised that we wasn't going to have 3 stories no more. That's what Hano told us.
Ms. Gian, I'm sorry, Ms. Marguerite. Back to what Cent was saying. Hano got a lot of property right down the street from around where Handle, what Florida. They got some land on Port. They got some land down here on Poland. They got land in the area.
Land right across
Ain't no
100
got, ain't
feet
no
from
got
the
land.
Florida.
Ain't no got land in this area. And
Ain't
yet
no got the desire side.
they got cross the canal even.
That's all we saying. We don't want to live that life again. And I don't mind the redevelopment, but I don't want the 3 stories. The community is not gonna want the 3 stories.
Well, what I will say is that we have heard you, and Ms. Marguerite, I apologize. I don't know what was said at the very beginning of these conversations because I came in the middle. And I do know that when I came in, Hanno had a conversation with the developer, and he did reduce the density. But that, again, that density increased when we added the senior units. And to your point of not wanting to be stacked on top of each other, I do understand that. But also recognize we're sitting on, I think, 18 acres of land. So if we start to spread out, you will lose the density, but you will also likely lose the senior building, because remember that was added on. No. If you go in and try to do fewer units.
Let me tell you, Miss, I forgot your name, Miss Gianna. When we were first starting about, now Diane and Cynthia, I need y'all to back me up. When we first started talking about this, they didn't have any senior living.
Correct.
Okay, now what we're saying is, when we came up with the senior living portion, that was supposed to be accounted in. We didn't. When we first started, he was like, I don't know. Let me see. Now that you're trying to tell us now, oh, because of senior living, that's what's increased the number.
So
we didn't ask to increase the numbers.
I don't want to get into
the
weeds too much, ma'am. But it is much more expensive to provide senior housing than it is for families. That is largely because there is an elevator, there is paying for heating and cooling of the hallways and other amenities that come with senior housing.
You tried to talk to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, because they do 223 D3 that I had over here and on this side of the tracks. They gave it up because of the landfill, but they had it there, and HUD are looking for some places to build 233 D3, and that's for senior, elderly, and elderly handicap apartment complex, and that's the only people that can live in it. It can't be those youngsters, but they do have funds to do that.
Correct, sir. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Something very similar to that product.
Okay, because I had one. Okay.
But to answer, to get back to Ms. Johnston's question, the reason, again, going back to the economies of scale, because you guys wanted the senior units to make the numbers work, you have to increase the density because the senior units are more costly to provide.
Y'all increase the density because, for the simple fact, when you first told us, you said 300 people, 300 residents in that area. That's what you said. Now you're telling us that you're adding what? You're telling us about you're adding more to this density, but from Jump Street, the numbers was wrong, because like Ms. Wiggins said, they already have 53 people back there already handled.
Talking 400 at that.
When you add that, what Hannah said plus yours, that seemed to should have given us that 300. Now you're saying we're gonna have 300 people in this small area because we have senior living, and plus we're gonna have the other 53. That don't add up. And what's happening here, to me, this is how I feel. Y'all trying to force this down our throats because I don't know why it can't be that Hano made the agreement with the community that they were only supposed to be putting back 253. Now, when they sold the property or leased the property to you, to me, to be fair to the community and the residents, we all should have been at the table together. And that's all I'm saying. And I'm saying, when y'all go to sleep, Ms. Gianni, and all the other people who don't live in this community, y'all gonna sleep in peace. Y'all don't know what it is to live around 3 stories, and you claim that the property is so this and so that. You keep referring to Columbia Park. Well, okay, Hano have more property. You could go at least 200 feet right across the railroad track. Right across the railroad track, and add some people over there. Only thing I'm saying is, no, we don't want the 3 stories for the young folks, because we didn't live that life. And we done lived this several times. And this is something that we don't want. We don't mind you coming, but we don't want that.
I think we've heard you loud and clear, Ms. Johnston. Are there any other questions not relating to the 3-story families that we can address in this meeting before we end it? Anyone else on the phone have any questions? Okay. All right. So hearing no more questions, again, I just want to say thank you for all your comments. Thank you for participating. Thank you for, again, spending an hour and 15 minutes with us. We want to take these comments into consideration, and we will follow up with the community. We will have another community meeting. Again, this meeting has been recorded, and it will be posted to Hano's website after this meeting. So please stay tuned, and please pass it along. So thank you, everyone. Again, I really appreciate it. Have a good night.